Sometimes a finance ministry steps straight into the currency market to push its own exchange rate around, and the market doesn't always obey. You'll see the headline, "A country just intervened to defend its currency," and people talk as if a government can simply set the price of money by decree. But that's where everyone overreads it, so let's be careful. We're not going to call any exchange rate, we're not going to predict the dollar, and we're not going to tell you what to buy. Here's the rhetorical question worth sitting with. If a government can just print its own money, why can't it just set its own value? Back in the 1980s, big economies learned the answer the hard way. Intervention pushes, but the market pushes back. So let's walk the mechanism of what's really happening when a government fights the currency market. Here's the act itself, the actual lever they pull. Imagine a country's own currency is falling and they want to support it. To do that, the authorities sell their foreign reserves, say the US dollars they've stockpiled, and they use those dollars to buy their own currency in the open market. More buyers of the home currency, fewer of the foreign one, and the price tends to firm up. To push the other way, to weaken their currency, they simply flip it. They sell their own money and buy foreign reserves instead. So at its heart, this is a tug-of-war. On one rope, you've got the central bank, pulling with maybe $200 billion of reserves. On the other rope, you've got the entire global market. Every trader, fund, and exporter moving money for their own reasons. The bank can yank the rope hard, but it is pulling against the whole world. Sell the reserves, buy the home. Now, there's a fork in this story that most people never hear about. And it completely changes what the intervention actually is. When a central bank buys its own currency, it pulls that money out of the system, which shrinks the money supply, like an accidental rate hike. So they have a choice. Down one path, they sterilize it. They offset that effect, usually by trading bonds to put the same amount of money back in. So the intervention is purely about the exchange rate and nothing else. Down the other path, they leave it unsterilized. They let the money supply shrink, which means the intervention is now doubling as monetary policy, tightening on top of moving the currency. Same action at the surface, completely different machine underneath. Did the central bank just nudge the exchange rate, or did it quietly tighten policy for the whole economy? That single choice, sterilized or not, is the difference between a currency tweak and a macro decision. Here's the hard limit that keeps every government honest. Reserves run out. Think of those foreign reserves as a tank. Every time the central bank defends its currency, it drains that tank to buy its own money. As long as the tank is full, it can keep pulling on the rope. But fight a strong, persistent market trend, one where the whole world wants to sell your currency, and that tank can empty shockingly fast. Picture a reserve pile draining from something like $200 billion down toward 120 in a matter of weeks. And that number is purely illustrative, just to show the direction. Once the reserves are gone, the bank has nothing left to pull with, and the market takes over completely. Currency history is full of this. In 1992, the United Kingdom spent heavily defending the pound against relentless selling, and when the reserves and the will ran out, it stepped back and let the market set the rate. That's the brutal lesson. Intervention works best when it leans with the fundamentals, giving a shove in a direction the market was already drifting, not when it tries to command the market against a tide it cannot outspend. Before you treat any intervention as a sure thing, hold it loosely, because whether it works depends on a handful of things, not on willpower. First, size. A small dab against a huge market barely registers, while a heavy, well-timed push can matter. Second, surprise. An intervention nobody expected can knock traders off balance, while a fully telegraphed one often gets faded. Third, coordination. When several big economies intervene together, as they famously did at the 1985 Plaza Accord, the combined firepower hits far harder than any one country alone. And fourth, alignment. Intervention that leans with the underlying policy and economic fundamentals tends to stick, while one that fights them tends to fade. The deeper truth is that intervention signals intent as much as it spends money. Sometimes the message that a government is willing to act moves the market more than the dollars it actually deploys. So here's the takeaway. Go back to where we started, a government fighting the currency market. Intervention pushes, but the market pushes back. Now you have the chain to read it with. To support a weak currency, they sell roughly $200 billion in foreign reserves, the US dollars they stockpiled, and buy their own. A tug-of-war against the whole market. Then comes the fork, sterilized, and it's purely about the exchange rate, or unsterilized, and it doubles as monetary policy. And underneath it all sits the hard limit, because reserves are finite and a strong trend can drain them fast. None of this is a forecast, and none of it is advice. It's a lens for reading the headline when it crosses. So the next time you see a country vowing to defend its currency, you'll know what to watch. Reserves can push, they can't command.